strategies, specifically whether Facebook live streaming is appropriate for you and your practice and building your business. My name is Dave Scriven-Young, an attorney from Chicago, Illinois. I host the Lawyer Lifestyle podcast as well as the Lawyers Emotional Intelligence Book Club on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Central. For this live stream, I go live every day at 8 a.m. Central to discuss the material for today. I take legal questions from the public. So if you have a legal question you've wanted to ask an attorney, please feel free to put that in the comments. And then as well, if you're a young lawyer, I like to come in and answer questions from young lawyers and law students about, what it's like to be a lawyer. And if you're a young lawyer in particular, things that may be going on in your practice that you have a question about, if you've a question you have always wanted to ask a more experienced lawyer, I'm here to answer those questions as well. So welcome in to the live stream. Today we're going to be talking again about Facebook Live and specifically more advanced strategies. For what we've been talking about the last several episodes of the podcast is specifically what platform should you be using to build your personal brand. And it's so important to build that personal brand, especially online, because people have to get to know you. And one way to do that is to do, direct advertising, to let people know that you're a lawyer and what you do. And, that's a very familiar tactic. Building your personal brand, I think, is a little bit different because you're building an asset around your passion. We've talked about this already, but just as a reminder for those who maybe this is the first time watching this live stream. Basically, if you have a passion, whatever that is, and it could be legal related, it could be something else. It could be Star Trek, Star Wars, it could be TV, it could be restaurants, whatever that is, you're building your personal brand around that. So you might have a podcast around it, or you might do work on social media. And so once you do that, people will, if you have great content, entertaining content, inspiring content, whatever it is, then people are going to look you up. They're going to say, well, I wonder what this person actually does for a living. And I'm sure as you create your content, it's going to come out at some point that you're a lawyer as well. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe your personal brand is, I'm a lawyer who cooks, or, I'm an attorney who, plays hockey, whatever it is, you're going to build your asset, your content around that. And then people will look you up and say, hey, oh yeah, this guy's a lawyer as well. I have a case. I wonder if I could work with him because I've connected with him so well, on social media and the like. So we've talked about Twitter and YouTube. We've just started talking about Facebook. And today we're going to talk specifically about whether Facebook Live should be part of your personal branding efforts. And the textbook that, of course, we're using today is Gary Vaynerchuk's Crushing It. And really, Facebook has done, I think, a great job in terms of video. We talked in the last episode of the podcast about how they've really gone all in terms of the Facebook Watch feature, and they were hoping it was going to, be a rival to YouTube. I don't think they're quite there, but live streaming has really been a great place for people to engage directly with their viewers in real time. Now, certainly you can do it on other platforms. Twitter has Periscope. YouTube has, a live section of that. But I think Facebook is another interesting way to do it, and it depends on where your audience is, right? We've talked about this as well. If you have, built up a substantial number of Facebook friends, then it just makes sense that maybe you're going to want to start on Facebook and incorporate Facebook Live into your branding. Specifically use live streaming. Gary Vee points out that it is the hardest art form. You need to be able to captivate an audience enough to have them disrupt their routines the very moment that you want their attention. And so there's a couple of examples that I think I wanted to bring up in terms of how that happens. And the first one, and this is one that Gary Vee mentioned in his in his book is the Chewbacca mom. So I'm going to just share my screen real quick so people can see what I'm doing. And of course, it's not going to translate on Instagram, but and on the podcast as well. But I did want to show this just real quick. Just make sure that this is that you're going to be able to see it. So this is the Chewbacca mom. So essentially, oh, and of course it's not going to work. But let's see if I can maybe reboot the page. Yeah. So essentially, this woman purchased a mask of Chewbacca, and here she is. So yeah, this lady purchased a mask of Chewbacca at Target or Walmart or wherever it was, and then did a whole live stream about it. So she took it out of the package, and she was just so excited about it, and you could just tell, like, it was just palpable the way, her excitement. She came online and said, hey, I've bought this great thing. I want to share it with all of you. She had a hard time getting out of the package, and she was so excited about it. And then she put it on, and you could just tell, like, the joy in her voice that came out. And then she used the mask, and it was the Chewbacca voice, as she opened her mouth. So many, just fun things. And just one trip to the store, one live stream, and she became, instantly, Facebook famous, right? She, ended up getting, a bunch of things out of it. Her kids ended up getting like scholarships to college. This was like the #1 live video of 2016. I mean, just crazy, right? And so that's just one example of how one stream can go viral. And and who knows? I don't know, what who this lady is or what even she does, but I bet you in the moment when it happened, and people came back and watched the replays, people definitely reached out to her. People reached out to her for deals, for sponsorships, for things of like. This woman was a lawyer or a professional. I have no idea whether she was or not. She could have been. I bet that people reached out to her, for her services as well. So it's just, one kind of to me, like a really like easy way, something that she was passionate about. She went to the store and bought something that she thought was really neat. She's probably a really big Star Wars fan. And then she was able to sort of parlay that into, something fun. So, yeah, so that's just one example of what you can do with live streaming. Lots of other things you can do, and lots of other examples, I think, of live streaming. One is live streaming different events. And one way that I really saw that in particular was during the Black Lives Matter protests. And then, additionally, sort of like the riots and the looting. And, it was interesting for me because, I live in Naperville, Illinois, which is, a suburb of Chicago. And there was there were protests. There were also riots and looting sort of in the downtown area where I live. And so we were very, very interested in what was going on because we didn't know if our specific, locality was going to be, at risk, from the looters, right? And so there were people who, went on to live stream. Now, it was interesting to see because there was like an official Naperville TV channel, NCTV, I think is what it's called. And they went online and actually showed the protest, right? The Black Lives Matter protest. And then when the rioting and the looting started, that person kind of just like fled. Like it was actually kind of amazing that this journalist, and again, I'm not making fun of this person, and I'm not I don't think that this person did the wrong thing, but I just thought it was interesting that this person who was actually a journalist who was covering this. When the rioting started, that person kind of went out. The feed dropped, and then what picked up were people who actually not they weren't rioting and looting, but they were just people who were down there, just residents, put on a live feed, and then you could just hop on and see what was going on. And it was interesting, sort of, during the Facebook lives, you can see like who you're watching with. So if a friend of yours is watching the Facebook live stream with you, then you could see that, right? It says, this person is watching with you. And I could just see like how many of my friends who live in my community were watching the stream. And so again, I don't know who that person was, but I'm sure a lot of people, he was saying he was getting a lot of friend requests and that sort of thing. So, live events, sort of in the moment things that are very, very interesting and topical and timely. Those are great ways to go live as well. Another way is Gary Vee talks about real estate agents and how they can use social media in particular to build their brand and become sort of like the expert of their community, because as real estate is all about location and whether you want to move to a specific area. So what they talk about is what they really talk about is, becoming an expert in your community. So that means, for example, where the best restaurants are. Maybe you're doing restaurant reviews on social media, all sorts of things. And then, potentially doing, a podcast or one particular program about your town. And I can tell you, one person that has done that very well is a friend of mine that I met through the ABA. His name is Scott McMullen. He's a lawyer in Annapolis, Maryland, who has an Annapolis podcast. So it's very specific to the town that he lives in, because that's specifically where he practices, and he wants to get business from that area. So, it can happen with real estate agents, can happen with attorneys, with any sort of professional who is trying to build a business around a particular community. Becoming a local expert is certainly something that you can do as well. And then, frankly, what I do, every morning is very similar to what Gary Vee does. And I'll, just show my screen one more time just so you can get a sense of what he does. And he talks about this in the book as well, which is to have a call-in program or a live Q&A. And so what he has is this Tea with Gary Vee that he comes on. I don't think he necessarily has a message always, but everyone because he's such a celebrity, people come in and ask him questions, right? About entrepreneurship, about social media, about starting a business and that sort of thing. He's such a celebrity that he can come in and just people are just waiting in line to ask him questions. So this is just one way he does it. He does it, just like I do. Although, frankly, I follow what he does. But he goes live, as you can see here on Facebook Live, and you can see all of the commenters. He actually has a call-in. Well, it used to be a call-in show. Now I think they actually maybe he uses Zoom. I'm not exactly sure what he uses, but to actually bring guests live onto the show. So yeah, you can see text your question and number 2, this number here to be on the show, and then they bring you on live. So again, it's just another way to do it, another way to sort of build your brand through social media. Kind of the final story that I wanted to tell in this area, and it comes from the book, Crushing It, is there's this woman, Brittney Castillo from Financially Wise Women. She's a certified financial planner. She started doing Facebook and YouTube videos, and I guess what I wanted to come back to talk about is, she got a lot of criticism from people because, it is very not traditional to, use social media, especially in the financial planning world, to sort of build your brand, but in a non-traditional way. So she was doing like rap videos, for, to talking about financial planning, right? definitely not something you see every day, but it was getting a lot of traction. And so she was getting a lot of haters who said, hey, this is not professional. This is not, the way that, certified financial planners should be, not sort of content that you should put out. And her perspective or her response was basically, well, okay, you're, a old white guy from Wisconsin who's criticizing me. And this is, of course, a young Hispanic woman. And her response was, well, okay, I don't care what you say because you're not my audience. You're not the person that I'm trying to reach. And the great thing about what she was trying to do, she was trying to reach out to people that normally wouldn't use a certified financial planner, wouldn't necessarily be somebody who is thinking about retirement because they're younger. But as anyone knows, the earlier that you start saving money, saving for retirement, the more that you're going to end up at the end. At least that's what everyone tells us, right? So if you're interested in sort of doing a live stream, or you're interested in doing more video, I would just say test it out. And Gary Vee talks about it, sort of a natural progression where, maybe you make smaller videos that are not live, and post those on YouTube, post those on Facebook, sort of get your feet wet into the video game. And then once you sort of test that out and you get your feet wet, then you can move into the live streaming as well. So it's a more gradual process that he would recommend than just, right away just starting out live, because it is a big jump. And then the other thing I would say is once you sort of built that audience, then of course you want to collaborate with others. Once you get going, you're going to want to share your original content on other people's platforms. You're going to want to ask other people to come on. Obviously that's what I've done with the podcast. I bring on guests every Tuesday, and I've bring on guests for my Lawyers Emotional Intelligence Book Club on Wednesday nights. So I think that's it for today. I mean, if people have questions about, Facebook or live streaming, I'm happy to answer those. Again, for folks who have legal questions, I come on live every day at 8 a.m. Central to answer those, as well as, if you're a young lawyer and you want, your question answered, or if you're a law student, you want your question answered about what it's like to be a lawyer, I answer those as well. So anyway, I hope everyone has a great day. I hope everyone stays safe and healthy. And I will see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central for another edition of this live stream. So